everyone, welcome to Big Talk live here on Global Television, reaching you from the nation's capital. My name is Edika Michael, your host. Thanks so much for tuning in. There are a whole lot of concern, controversy surrounding the declared election from Edo. The People's Democratic Party has actually given out a statement rejecting and calling for a total reviews of that election and another collation process in a bid to adhere to the election, the procedures of the Electoral Act of 2022 and all what it takes for INEC to declare a winner. Their concern of the Labour Party is also that the election was marred with a whole lot of vote buying and irregularities. All of that has all continued to be the concern of the ruling party in Edo State and other parties as far as the Edo Saturday's election is concerned. Tonight on the program, we have the honor of having the Deputy National Public Secretary of People's Democratic Party, Mr. Ibrahim. Thanks so much for joining us on the program.
Thank you, Victor, for having
me. We deeply appreciate your time tonight. We take it so much with gratitude.
My pleasure being here.
Yes. A concern in Edo, we saw the outcome of the election, but your party are rejecting the poll. Is this after because your party lost the election, or is because you feel the APC do not deserve to win? What is your concern about rejecting the result where APC are saying this is a vote of the people and INEC has had to confirm that by their declaration?
Well, our bone of contention is hinged on the fact that there was no election in the real sense of the word. What we saw was...
we saw there was no election from the polling unit and all of that because we monitored the election. The polling unit was peaceful. We saw the security agencies professionally doing their work.
That's what I'm going with. That was an interruption from you. By the definition of no election, that implies that it did not comply substantially with the provisions of the Electoral Act, and spirit of a supposed credible election. If election had held to the very end of it in the manner that we expected it, then we would not come here and say there was no election. Like you heard Labour saying, which you quoted earlier, the election was a vote buying exercise, more or less. But that's not even what we as a party is hinging our argument on. Our argument is precipitated on the fact that long before the election itself, we had warned that what we saw and the step that APC was taking was tilting towards rigging that election. And these were manifestly clear from the very day they went into Benin City and picked all of our important critical stakeholders and whisked them away for alleged crime that they should or ought to have been tried in Edo or Benin City, where they were flown into Abuja, and for days we did not even know where these people were. We saw those ominous signs, and they were manifestly clear that these people were tilting towards doing something very dangerous. And the governor came all out, the critical stakeholders in the PDP, the candidate of the PDP, Asue Igodalo, and every other person that matter, including us, the party, came and complained, and we shouted on rooftop, but they said it was false alarm. There was nothing untoward that they meant with those actions. But here we are. You could see clearly how the election was manipulated and rigged. The violent interruption of collation, was enough for us to say that, hey, what are you people about to do this time around? All of those things are things that we are accustomed to because we are familiar with those terrain. You could see that since APC came to power in 2015, they kept doing what is called inconclusive. Midway into election, I don't know why a referee would just blow the whistle and say that the match is suspended only for it to be continued next time. And then they would not provide justifiable reasons to convince you as what has informed all of these things. And these are always where they will now have the elections, manipulated. What we saw day before yesterday in Edo State was travesty of justice, not election in the real sense of it. And that was why I premised this presentation by letting you know that it wasn't an election in the real sense of it, because vote buying was one argument, manipulation of the process was another, compromise for security agencies who were deployed to torment, the party PDP, because clearly where we found weapons and ammunitions at the disposal of the APC or their followers, and then we alarmed and presented those arguments to the security, no action was taken. But you could see the reverse was the case. Anywhere PDP tries to make, including denying us access to the collation center. But 12 local governments were, by the time our governor and chairman of Adamawa State, the governor of Adamawa State.
I was about coming to that.
Yes, I know you would come to that, really. He went on air and made these things clear.
Okay, from the 12 local government that was collected and uploaded on IREF.
It was very clear PDP was tilting to victory, and we were trying to make the warnings very clear because we saw the signal. We knew a thing like this was likely, and the governor was trying to keep the nation up to speed with what had happened as at that time, because that was when INEC brought its abracadabra and altered all of those, victory that we were thinking that we were coasting into victory. But it's clear, and every other discerning mind in Nigeria can see the hands of Esau in all of this thing. Yeah, that's the position.
They are also saying that, Godwin Obaseki came from APC, that ordinary, he wouldn't have been a governor without the APC, and that the Edo state belongs to APC. So it's a way of them taking back the state, that the majority of people in Edo believe in the All Progressive Congress. Do you also view it from that standpoint?
It is not likely. There's no way he would come from APC. The fact that Adams Oshomole was in government house at the time he brought Obaseki does not mean that Obaseki is a product of the APC. If he was, he would not leave the party, to come back to the PDP. What happened clearly is that Edo State had traditionally been a PDP stronghold. From 1999, you will recall Lucky Egbenidion was the first governor of that state since the return of this republic. And we have consistently produced governors, in that line and chain. So there's no way anybody will lay claim to APC being. When did APC come into power? It was only in 2015 that anybody will come to see. But this democracy has been in operation 25 years now with PDP controlling the affairs of Edo State. So it doesn't reconcile. It's defying the odds for anybody to come with that kind of lame narrative. It's not logical.
If your party had won the election, would you say that democracy is in danger? Because we've seen some of your party members saying that there is a threat to democracy. Azure, the governorship candidate of your party in your state, is saying that democracy is in danger. And those are telling you, if PDP had won, would have you accepted to the reality that probably you did one way or the other to win the election Saturday?
If we had done what these people did, we would also describe this thing as a dangerous democracy or subjected to danger. Really, if PDP had done just 10% of what APC had done in terms of compromising the process. What Aso Egudalo meant with that is that, really speaking, the intervention of political class, rather the presidency or the ruling party, in ensuring that all of the opposition chances, including the states where PDP is in control as we speak today, have been suffocated, are not allowed to ventilate, and then there's this desperate determination to ensure that they stifle, voices of dissent, to ensure that nobody is talking except their party. And they continue to expand their frontiers through hook and crook by ensuring that every other political party is subjected to. You could see the way they are annexing, rather, not winning election, because I don't know what APC has done in this country between you and I, Victor.
They don't deserve to win any election.
To win any election in this country. The nation is groaning. The nation is going through untold hardship.
Is that what you think?
That's not what I think. That is what you and I are experiencing.
No, in Edo State, because I'll tell you that Edo is Edo, and probably Nigeria has to do with what the federal government and President Tinubu is doing, and that even under the PDP in the state, we are not even faring things better. The governance is not properly, carried out by Godwin Obaseki. Probably it's also the fallout of his mismanagement of the people's funds. That's
contextual. It depends on who is telling you this thing. But clearly speaking, logical assessment of performance, even by agencies that will rate performance in this country, have given Godwin Obaseki this last 8 years, thumbs up as a performing governor. The man has done so much. He took that state from where it was, a moribund and layout state, and today to a very competitive state that is out there, rubbing shoulders with the performing states. I have not seen any governor in the history of that state, at least from 1999, when this democracy returned, performing half the way this man has done. And we would have taken the state further if Aso Egudalo, our candidate, who is coming from a background that is solid, who is informed, who is popular, who has this grassroots followership and the cult-like determination, to be able to do exactly what democracy expects of him. And so as a party, we would have seen and we would have vindicated ourselves if he was given the chance. But we will pursue this thing logically to a conclusion that will be informed, and certainly that will be through the courtrooms.
Because they are saying that the candidate of your party is not on ground. He does not understand the setting of the politics in Edo State. He's not of the people of Edo State. He's probably a Lagos-based, all of that description on his candidacy. And that probably you had a man like Philip Shaibu, who your party mismanaged the process and led him to decamp to APC. These are the factors that have contributed for him to fail. That probably the governor had an agreement with Philip Shaibu to give him the ticket as at the time, but he betrayed the relationship between the governor and the deputy governor. Is that the description?
Excuses will always come when this kind of situation befalls anyone, and the PDP will not expect itself to be vindicated from this kind of accusation.
But don't you think you would have managed that better?
Well, we tried to do so within the comfort, and I agree with you, there were issues, but like I said yesterday, these are expected anywhere you go. When you have a political office the size of a governor, or you have a government in place like we had in Edo, you would be expecting this kind of development. Himself, Adams Oshomole, did not end it very well with his successor, in this case Obaseki. So Obaseki himself, who you want to think had any agreement with Philip Shaibu. Philip Shaibu was going in a manner that no person, no governor will accept it. He was becoming too daring, he was becoming too visible and too present and physical in areas where he was expected not to be, when you had a boss in Obaseki, until they parted ways. So one would have expected him to manage his popularity, which was soaring because there were again an Obaseki behind him. But you will also recall, whatever good you think Philip Shaibu had done to Obaseki, Obaseki has done even more than that, because as a party, at a particular point in time, we were even asking Obaseki to have his way with the ticket, but he will have to relinquish that of the deputy governor for the party to choose one for it. That's the traditional PDP that they met in Edo State. But he insisted, no, he has to go with his deputy. And that was how he came together with Philip Shaibu. So he had done a lot of good to Philip Shaibu, like he had done to many others, but that's not even the argument. The argument is that whether he has been able to justify the mandate given to him in Edo State for the 8 years that he has overseen the affairs of Edo State. I will tell you outrightly, yes. He got 100% kudos from us as a party and from Edolites. And then, of course, people who have followed events have given him thumbs up, including international organizations. Some of them have come to rate him as a performing governor. So he has vindicated himself, give it and take. So if he's bringing a successor with the clout of Asue Ighodalo, who you have described, or people are saying that is a Lagos-based, it's not justifiable, because this is a man who, through his rallies and campaigns, you could see the level of popularity and the grassroots followership that he commanded, which goes to confirm that it's not true. Anybody who comes to pick a ticket in a very conscious state like Edo State will suffer one accusation or the other. So Asue Ighodalo carried that baggage of being a Lagos-based. But where is this Monday Okpobolo coming from? He's also not
from the Senate.
Yes, well, he came from where before he went to the Senate.
Do you feel he didn't have any capacity?
He also was not based in it. But this is a man who rose to become a boardroom person. He has grassroots followership. You could see the attention and the attendance that characterized his rallies and campaigns. How could anybody be bringing that kind of lame argument? It's pedestrian. It's not logical.
So don't you feel that these are the factors that probably led to the PDP losing out on that election? Because there are those that will tell you that the governor had so many scores to settle, so many problems to deal with. And these are the persons that ganged up from PDP when he came to the party, sent them out of the party, and these persons had to wait for him during the election. And this is the result of people paying him back. Probably.
It could be an argument from them, and if they make it, it now depends on who is listening. But I tell you, there's no governor that is governing any state that will tell you he has 100% followership from that state. It is expected to be an office that will attract enemies for you because you have not gone their way, you've not done some things the way they expect. If the preponderance majority of the citizens are in support of what was happening, which was the renovation of the educational sector, reform of the educational sector, the outstanding performance and the physical structures that we saw that man put in, reform in agriculture, revamping the social fulcrum of the entire state. If these are not enough for the citizen, they will not have allowed him to have a second time going, and then they voted for his candidate, his anointed candidate, Aso Ighodalo, which is what we are saying here. What happened was just, like I said earlier, a travesty of justice. But PDP was voted, and we are still, yes, and we are convinced we were voted, but we were rigged out.
How would you convince Popular receiving 291,167 and your party having 247, 274? Then people say over 40,000 gap. How would you convince people that? Because there are those that will tell you it wasn't even a close race.
I don't know what 40,000 is, that so it will not be a close race. We have had elections where people covered 70, 80,000 after a run or whatever. We will be able to provide the statistics in the fullness of time. We are collating our data, and we will bring the local government where all of these things happened and where our strength as a party was denied, and some of the things they did to subvert, the will of the people. And then by the time these are put together, you will see how we will close that 40-something thousand gap. To us, it's not anything. They've not even shown that they are smart in doing it. Otherwise, it should have been 100,000 or more, given the kind of determination and physical assault that they deployed in that election. So clearly speaking, it's not anything that is giving us sleepless night. We'll close it when we get to the tribunal proper.
So you mean probably INEC had compromised in one way or the other?
Oh, certainly INEC has been a complicit from the word go. INEC had been willing
but
to...
they promised Nigerians that this election will be one of the best from all indication, and the long time they had to prepare for this off-cycle election.
It turned out to be the worst. And every time they want to do this thing, they will tell you that why is, for crying out loud, the result that we have in the IREF not reconciling with the election, with the result at the declaration. That will tell you what INEC is in this country. It has become a very, very irresponsible organization that we are calling for its scrapping and probably some reform in that direction. Professor Yakubu has presided over the worst election in Nigerian history, from the general election to this one that we are seeing, off-season election. Already they are threatening that they are going to do the same thing in Ondo State, and they have devised the strategy that they are going to put in there to take it, and which is looking likely because that's a state where they are even in control. If a state like PDP state, which is Edo State, has been robbed of its mandate, the way these people have done a fortnight ago, then you can imagine how easy it will be for them in Ondo. But I'm now calling on people of Ondo and of course the PDP families to learn some lessons from the strategy deployed in this robbery that took place in Edo State, so that we can forestall against its reputation or reoccurrence rather in Ondo State as we go to the poll in November.
Because the APC are saying that their strategy worked and the PDP strategy had failed. Is it a deployment of strategy at this time? Because even if you want to go by vote buying, Labour Party has accused the fact that all the major political parties were engaged in vote buying. So your party is not even safe from the vote buying. There are confirmation that PDP bought vote, APC bought vote from the polling units.
It will depend on how prepared they are to present those evidence at the tribunal, where we are headed. We are trying to collate it, and in a week's time now or less, we'll be able to get done with that, and then we'll dot the I's and cross the T's and make available all this empirical evidence that we have to justify and buttress our argument that it was a stolen mandate. Sure. So whether we joined in buying votes, it will be proven at the tribunal, and I expect them to make available their own evidence to buttress those arguments or narrative or accusations leveled on us.
Over 2.4 million voters registered for that election, but from the outcome we are seeing, it seems it was a low turnout election. What are the factors probably that may be considered in that reason for people not coming out to vote? Probably is it the fact that those will tell you that there were no road for people to use because the governor himself have not given those people good roads, and when it rains, that people find it difficult to access the nearby community, to access their polling unit. That's the reason why people could not come out to vote. And the few that came out, they took advantage of the situation, because in all the indications that if people had come out to the election, let's say over 1 million people, 50% or 60% people came out of that election, probably there wouldn't have been room for all of these allegations after elections.
They are the ones that made it impossible for people to turn out en masse to vote in that election day. That was Saturday. Really because of the intimidation and the violent nature that they have deployed pre and post, on the election day rather. Pre and on the election day. They convinced the nation that they were going to have a physical and a do-or-die, exercise, whether the citizens of the country are in support or not. So that went a long way in scaring the citizenry, and they ensured that some of them, a good number of them, stayed indoors so that they will avert the violent nature of APC in the way they conduct election in this country. And you will see posterity will go down in history as holding APC as one of the greatest albatross to peaceful election in this country. We had a 2015 election, which was the last PDP oversaw, where the victor relinquished power with voting midway. He just said, yes, I've lost this election, and called the victor, congratulated him, and sought his involvement in the transition to hand him over power. And there were so many of them before that time. Yar'Adua admitted in 2007 that some of the processes that brought him were not as credible as he would have expected. There and then at the swearing in, he constituted a committee headed by Justice Uwais to go into reforming the process. These people don't care. Even if it's one person that vote as a result of coercion or intimidation of the opponent, they will still go and announce, and then INEC will play an arbiter to ensure that is possible, and then ask the opposition to go to court, which in any case they have already cornered in their side. They have the security forces, they have the electoral umpire in their pocket, they have everything, they have direct everything today, whether the police, the military, the CBN, everything that you want to think in this country, custom, they've cornered it to their side. APC is just itself. And
so they are not excused from, the security agencies are not excused from the outcome this Saturday.
Oh, certainly. It was a very violent election. There was intimidation, there was coercion, there was violence, and every other, all the ills that you can imagine. And the security forces abated some of them, and they watched where PDP was subjected to untold hardship. But where the reverse was the case, they came all out and made that impossible for PDP. And so it was a very dangerous election, a very, very violent election. And it was a clear indication of the determination and desperation of APC to ensure that through whatever means possible, they take that state in their fold. But we'll get it back in due course when the time comes.
All right. I mean, if you can take your mind back when your party were in power, that those I will tell you that the PDP still had essence of state capturing. Peter Obi have alleged APC for capturing Edo State using the federal might. If you take, that those will tell you PDP did the same. There are some state that during elections, the PDP will by all means get convinced to capture a particular state. That APC are probably learning from what PDP did in the past. That PDP shouldn't be saying that they have been robbed, because they also started the same situation in Nigeria's democracy.
That cannot be correct. That's not logical. It depends on what Peter Obi meant by that. And the evidences are there, whether from 1998, when it took off, when the first election held since the return of this republic, or 2003 or 2007. I told you that, yes, some of the steps that ought not to have been taken, or some of the missteps that PDP had during the election of 2007, which was the only election that did not substantially comply or meet the expectation. Our president then came all out and admitted that, yes, it was a little below expectation, and then he put a committee in place to ensure that that is remedied. So it's not justifiable for anybody to now come and hold PDP in time past. The same PDP that has provided everything, reformed the Electoral Act. You could see these people, we will have to shout on rooftop before electoral acts are reviewed every 4 years, which was not the case. It was consistent under the PDP. But in 2019, you saw how the whole country had to come all out, led by PDP, to have President Muhammadu Buhari to sign the Electoral Act that, informed the election of 2019. And this was the case again in 2022. Since signing that one, nothing has been. They are not complying with it. And that's what we are saying in Section 67, or rather 65 of the Electoral Act, provides that computation from the polling units should be the ones that should be announced at the collation center. But that was what Governor Fintiri was trying to argue. And these are the results available to us, and they were uploaded at the IREV. On the IREV of the INEC. But the collation was a different thing, and the announcement that came from the returning officer was in sharp contrast to what is contained out there. So it leaves much to be desired, really, in the way these people are going with this country. But they are pushing the country to the critical range. My fear is that we might wake up someday and realize that there's no country for us to call a nation, because the tyranny is getting to a level where Nigerians cannot bear no more. And then the resistance of the country will be something untoward, and I don't pray we live to see that.
So you feel if election is conducted again today, or a rerun is being declared, that the people will vote in the PDP, the vote you've had maybe increased, and the APC probably may not be able to secure the number of votes they had in that Saturday poll?
I don't know who will vote APC in this country. Look at the economy, the educational sector, public utility, morality, security, as well as international relations of this country. They are all in a malady. These are multidimensional
Do the people
problems.
of Edo feel that way?
Yeah, they do. That's the reason you saw them following our candidate, everywhere he went with the kind of crowd and support. And, that followership that you saw was not because really the candidate himself, like you people would say, grew up there in Edo State, but because he's a performer that they believe would be able to do something good for the country. And, of course, because APC has lost sympathy, either from its performance at the center or all of the states where they are in control. So that's the reason that you saw that kind of cult-like followership around our candidate, because PDP is the only option for the citizen. These are multidimensional problems that require multidimensional solutions. But APC is clueless and inept. They do not have the wherewithal to fix these problems. And that's why the more you look, the less you understand. Every other day they are just putting this country under untold hardship, insecurity that has ravaged the land, and all of those other menaces that have made life unbearable for the citizenry and the common man. It's for you and I to access, and we can see it glaringly.
Maybe we might not also be back and forth on that issue, because it looks that the only available room now is to go to the court to prove all of that is the court room. Are you really having the assurance of getting this mandate at the judiciary?
Well, we have limited confidence in the judiciary, like I earlier stated, because of the usurpation of that in the institution by... But
during Osun election, you had confidence in the judiciary?
Osun, yes. We have not said completely. I said limited. We're expecting them to keep vindicating themselves, because as we go to them, we're expecting anything untoward. We've seen how they superintended over our presidential election up until Supreme Court with all the evidence that we provided. They went ahead to say that the election did not comply substantially with, or rather the election was in favor of the APC and that he has won. All of those pre-election and election matters that we presented were not substantial enough, says the court, to invalidate that election. So from that moment, we lost hope in, the judiciary. But we also will continue as citizens, as Democrats, to give it the benefit of the doubt, to continue to approach the courts until we become satisfied that they are no longer willing to do the job. Then we will begin to think of any option, if any.
All right. We, of course, still keeping our eyes and tracking some of the developments coming in from the Edo and reactions of political parties and the stakeholders. And that's the PDP Deputy National Public Secretary, Ibrahim Abdullahi. Thanks so much for joining us on the program tonight.
My pleasure.
We do hope that you may be able to convince the court to reclaim the mandate.
Yeah, God willing, we'll be able to try. We'll give
all right,
it a try.
All right. Now, that's left for the judiciary. All right, everyone. We'll go on the break right away. And once we return, I'll be looking at the recent move by the president to set up a disaster funds in order to be able to manage situations like that of Borno State that are concerned. People are raising what happens to empowering NEMA, what happens to the funds that have been voluntarily donated to the Borno State government. We'll try to track all of these and knowing how far this federal government is ready to tackle disasters in the country. Just stick around with us on the program. I'll be right back.
For an insightful idea that takes the center stage